Hello and welcome back to Memories of a Musician. I'm your host, Vito DeSalvo. I have a great program for you this evening with a really fine musician, a guy by the name of Sean McDonald. And oddly enough, Sean was another student of mine, and he was really in the very beginning of my career as a teacher. And he played percussion and drums. He played in the high school orchestra, which I conducted. And so it's interesting because Sean sent the first three pictures, the first three photos that Sean sent to me. He said, my mother sent these to me. And one of them was, I'm going to show you these photos before we get too far along. One of them was, this was the high school orchestra at West Mifflin South High School. So this is before the two high schools, South and North, combined to become West Mifflin area. This is, and we're going to ask Sean when he comes on what year he graduated. But and actually, I remember all of these students. And interestingly, Sean is the guy right in the center in the second row. He has like the football jersey on, and I think it has a 40, 42 or something on it. The 4, you can see pretty clearly. That's Sean. And it's interesting. I just had a conversation with the girl that's in the second row from the left, third person. That would be Marianne Ivan. She was actually another percussionist, and I taught her piano. I just had a conversation with her via email just lately, very lately. And she's also a professional musician. She just spent 2.5 months in China performing there. And so anyhow, this is interesting because these kids, they go back. The girl that's on the very end on the right in the first row, Michelle Zamberry, she was a cello player. And I just saw on Facebook that she had just retired. And I'm thinking, one of my students is retiring already from work. I must be getting old. and I wrote to her and congratulated her on that. And then this picture here, this is Sean. You see him behind the drum kit there. And then playing guitar is Brian Rosen. He actually is retired too, I think. But he was a music teacher, I want to say Fort Cherry High School, somewhere here in Pennsylvania, southwestern Pennsylvania. Anyhow, Brian made his living. And then the trumpet player, Tom Bekovac, I'm not sure if he's still playing music or whatever, but he was a very terrific trumpet player back when he was in high school. And that's when I wrote a piece for him for our orchestra called The Legend of Los Ojos Triste. And it was a solo for Tommy there. And so Sean probably remember playing that, playing drums on that. And then this is a funny picture too, because this is to really let you know that this was the beginning of my career. This was the school newspaper. And it says the newest member of the faculty, and it has me listed as, and I was a South graduate. I graduated from the same school. And so that picture was there too. I thought that was pretty funny. You could see it goes back a long way because the collar on my shirt, I could almost take off like the Flying Nun or something, So it's pretty funny. But anyhow, when you go back to these pictures and you see this stuff back in the day, it's amazing. But Sean McDonald was, an outstanding musician and drummer back in high school. And he went on to owning his own recording studio and being quite the sound engineer. I actually hired him in 2006 to record a concert that my band was doing, We Three, for we were filming, and it was for PBS and a DVD and so forth and so on, and hired Sean to record the audio portion of the concert. And we can also talk about when Sean gets on. I actually recorded one time in his studio, and it wasn't that long ago. But it was one song I came in with the accordion to play on an Engelbert Humperdinck concert that was done in Hawaii And all the musicians went from Pittsburgh to Hawaii to do this concert. And there was an accordion part, but they used a keyboard, and they called me afterwards and said, would you come in and play this? And I said, sure, where do I go? And here it was in Sean's recording studio. So that was kind of a neat thing for me to go and work at his studio. So before I talk too much here about Sean, I put together a montage of some of the songs that he's engineered and produced. He's also a producer, and he's produced, recorded, and mixed these particular songs. And you'll see what they are and the different artists that he's worked with. He's worked with many artists, which I'm going to read his bio in a minute. But I want to get you familiar with some of the things that he's done. So I'm going to play this opening montage here.
Second verse, same as the first. I'm in a really 8 I am, in a really 8 I am. I got married to the widow next door.
Past 10 and I'm in my notes app, crying again, push another, sinking feeling away. Spell out the words you know I'll never say. Arcade full of games, you're rigged to lose. It's my future, the bad guys get to choose. It's exhausting, never knowing what comes next and always showing signs of a girl with the wasted potential. Watch what she does with her brain instead of mental. She could be a doctor, she could be a lawyer, but what is she to do with the beat of guitar?
go. Wow. And there you go. Sean McDonald. Yeah, that was great. A lot of different things, a lot of different styles. Well, Wynton Marsalis all the way to Henry VIII. I am. That's a big, you know. And Sean is certainly not the first engineer that I've had on the program, but he's right up there, and I can't wait to ask him some questions about how he got to some of the places he got to. I'm going to read a little bit of his background for you before I bring him on. Sean McDonald is a Pittsburgh-based producer, songwriter, musician, and founder of Red Medicine Recording Studio. His music career began in Pittsburgh's early punk scene while still in high school, where he played drums for No Shelter, which helped shape one of the region's earliest underground music movements. After years of performing, recording, and touring, he returned to Pittsburgh to found Red Medicine Recording, which has grown into one of Western Pennsylvania's most respected studios and a creative home for artists throughout the region. Over the years, he has worked with artists ranging from Wynton Marsalis, Jewel, Stanley Jordan, and Sinead O'Connor, to regional favorites such as the Clarks, Glenn Pavone, Lindsay Libro, Sun King Warriors, and Gene the Werewolf. He also produces music for the PBS series My Music and the American Soundtrack, featuring legendary artists such as Aretha Franklin, Ronnie Spector, Davy Jones, Little Richard, and Dionne Warwick. His work also includes music for national advertising campaigns for Toyota, Mellow Yellow, and American Giant. Sean has also provided technical consulting on studio builds throughout North America and for organizations including WQED, Kennywood Park, the Pittsburgh Zoo, and Carnegie Museum of Pittsburgh. Even after all these years, he is still inspired by the creative process, working with artists, chasing great performances, and helping turn rough ideas into finished records that people are proud of. With decades of experience on both sides of the glass, Sean brings a musician's ear and a producer's perspective to every project. He remains an active contributor to Pittsburgh's vibrant music community. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring Sean onto the program. There he is. Hi, Sean McDonald. How are you?
Hey, Mr. DeSalvo. I can't break the habits from being in your junior high orchestra, so I have a tough time calling you Vito, but thanks for having me on.
Yeah, that's what my last guest was, Zach Wiesinger, and I said, look, you can call me by my first name. He says, I just, it's a hard habit to break.
It is.
No.
Thanks for having me on.
It's great having you on, and you've had a really successful career, and it kind of shocks me when I think about it. And I've had a number of my students on this program who all made their living in the music industry, and I'm thinking that's pretty good coming out of a little community like West Mifflin, and
well, it has a lot to do with you. I mean, you are really inspiring, the best musician I ever encountered, and like you said, everybody that was in your class either continued on with hobbies or, like you said, Brian Rosen became a music teacher, and I think a big part of that was due to you. I mean, I hope we talk about you giving me my first big break with your band back, what was it, junior high or whatever that was. That was amazing to me. So there's a lot of it to do with you. I didn't mean to interrupt, but want to give you your props that you really set me on my path that couple weekends that I played with you and being in your class all that time.
Yeah. And I'd mentioned that, and this wasn't too long ago when you did the Engelbert project, and I was brought in to redo the accordion spot. And
the accordion was on the record, and we used like a keyboard to fake it, and we wanted the real thing. Yeah.
And it was interesting because after I did the accordion, the audio part with you, I got another call. I think it was from Ruff Duzzy, and he said, "Could you come in and we'd like to just film so we could get you, and we'll just and if you watch it, I think it's like a 2-second. You'll see me for about
Yeah.
2 seconds in it or something. I know, but it was pretty cool, and it was really a neat thing for me to walk into your studio, and now all of a sudden, the tables have turned, and I'm working under your guidance.
Yeah, that was a little surreal. It was like, yeah, 100%. It was great having you here. Yeah, and you made the record better as I expected you would. Yeah.
So, Sean, when did you actually start studying music? Was drums your first instrument?
Started guitar first, like probably fourth grade, something like that. Stuck with it a little bit, and then you guys had the summer band program that was funded or organized through the school, and then we started on the snare drum thing. That was probably junior high, and kind of the guitar got put in the closet for a while. My brother Kevin picked it up, and now he's a fantastic guitar player. But no, I started a little bit with guitar, and then head first into the drum thing, and then kind of picked up my brother's guitar when I was probably 17 or 18, wanting to revisit it again. But the guitar first, then drums.
I see. So I have an interesting picture. This is you as a little boy with your mama, huh?
Yeah, good pictures there.
Yeah.
She sadly passed in a few years ago, but these pictures are great, and wouldn't be doing any of it without her and my dad's support financially, as far as transportation, everything. Those guys made it happen, whether it was a football game or a band practice. Those guys were super good about getting you to places and supporting the choices that we made. Yeah.
She's a beautiful woman there too.
Yeah, she was. Yeah.
Yeah. And then this is a picture a little bit
graduation.
Like, yeah, you were graduating from high school. Huh?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, very awesome.
Yeah. And so now that I know, you started in our music program on the drums, right in our, as we recruited elementary students, usually 4th grade to 5th grade, going in that period of time. Let me ask you this question. So I know that you were a drummer. I know you played guitar too, because I see you with guitar.
I'm a guitar operator. Zach is a guitar player. I'm a guitar operator.
Okay. Well, for a while, I was a guitar owner. And I could play 2 chords, and there was a song I could play from, I think from the Bahamas, and it was only G and D7, so I could figure that out.
Got it covered, yeah.
But anyhow, so how did you get into recording? How did that all come about?
Like you mentioned in the opening, I had traveled around everywhere playing music in all different kinds of bands, pop stuff, rock stuff, R&B, just about everything. And quite busy and really missed my family, mom and dad and my brother. So I came back to Pittsburgh and was still playing music, but this was the advent of when recording gear started getting a little cheaper. There was things like the ADAT tape recorders and the D88s, where before that you needed a giant loan that you'd buy a house to buy a studio. Now, with this advent, that late 80s, early 90s, these digital tape recorders became a lot more affordable. So me and a partner, my original partner in studio, Mario Capabianca, pooled our resources and started renting this space, which was the second floor of what was Swiss Vale Music Store, which was kind of a
I remember
keystone, like a bench, really substantial music store through the 70s and 80s. So we rented this second floor off of those guys and just started experimenting and making bad recordings. And each day they got a little better and a little better and a little better. I had a great mentor from the recording side of it, a guy named Toby Wright. When I was still a musician, that was my primary focus. He did a couple sessions with us, and Toby went on to record Alice in Chains and Motley Crue and the Bullet Boys, and big name cat, really had done some great things. But he was always a guy that would take my phone call. And when we started investing in all this gear, he said, "Hey man, you should buy this, don't buy that. He kind of gave me a shopping list of what to invest in. So that was very important as well, that gear I bought, 30 some years ago, I still have due to his recommendations. So he was a great mentor. And then just wanted to get into it, was tired of traveling, still was playing music, but didn't want to be out there, 50 weeks a year, not seeing the family. So came back here and started slowly building up the arsenal of gear and willing victims or volunteers that would let me record them. And again, it was bad, and it got a little better, a little better, a little better. And 30 years later, we're still here doing music that's on radio and TV around the world, which is pretty cool.
And you got very involved with working for PBS and how did that all come about?
Back to those digital recorders. They had recorded the first show that I would end up doing 20 years ago. It was like a doo-wop show. They had recorded one in-house at WQED, and I wasn't involved with that recording, but they were having issues with the machines in post-production, syncing and all the technical black magic that's involved. And a guy that's become a great friend, now retired, Paul Byers, who's the engineer, like the chief of the engineering at QED, came. He goes, "Hey man, you have these D88s. Can you help us with a sync issue we're having?" So yeah, absolutely, helped Paul out with whatever. I can't remember what the issue was. And then once we got the sync issue straightened out, he said, "Hey, you have a studio. Would you like to mix this thing?" So that was my first kind of entrance into the QED PBS world. So that developed a good relationship with me and Paul, who was like all things technical down there, whether it was audio or video or internet or the FM broadcast. He was the guy. He was the tech guy. So we became good friends. I was able to help him out with situations. He's been able to help me out with video things I didn't understand. But the guy that was behind that show, that first doo-wop show, a guy named TJ Levinsky, who was kind of the brainchild of that thing. It was his idea to put it all together. Then me and TJ developed a relationship, and it was he's not a musician, but he's a giant music fan and loved those records, whether it was something from 1950 or 1985. He knew them all. So we developed a partnership, and I recorded and mixed all the other shows since that one that I didn't record. And we've done 25 years of that, maybe. And it brought us all over the world of again, from Aretha Franklin to Little Richard, to you name a music name, and from, again, 1950 to probably 1985. And we probably recorded them for the show. And that was the Engelberg thing. That was a PBS deal as well. And then the Winton part of it, QED is still the hub of it. That was not a TJ show. That was a company called Velocity Broadcasting, and they had a business model where they would bring artists into that Fred Rogers studio, and they would do this direct, we used to call pay-per-view almost, but they outfitted all these restaurants, Morton's restaurants and different restaurants, with these high-def screens and 7.1 surround systems, and they would broadcast these shows out there. And so the Winton thing, the Jewel thing, the Stanley Jordan, and a few other of them were broadcast from the QED studio around the world. So that was still QED centric, and they called me in because that relationship I had, but two different worlds, the TJ world and then the Velocity world, but all was music based around QED people.
I see. Interesting. Just a couple real quick pictures. I had this picture of you. This is when you were drumming, playing.
Yeah, that was from a couple years ago. Yep, that was at Stage AE. Yes. Yep. And
then I had this one, tracking, probably a PBS show.
That's at TJ's studio over. It was up in Mars somewhere, and that was recording some stuff there at his spot. Yep. Okay.
And interesting. Right, this picture here. We're going to talk about this young fella, and his name is Corey Congilio.
Yep.
Guitar player, right? And vocalist.
Fantastic guitar player. Yeah. Great educator, guitar player. Yes.
His name was familiar to me. I'm not sure why. He may have been a guy that I spoke with when I was looking for a guitar player with my group years ago. I don't really remember, but What's interesting is you were producing, and it's an interesting word. And when somebody, I've had students. Now this is before when you were in high school. We didn't have this music technology program, which started about the same time you mentioned about the mid '80s, like '86, '87. I started this music technology program, and I had kids in there making beats with the drum machines, and we had synthesizers and the computers with digital performer, et cetera, et cetera. And some kid would come up to me and say, "Hey, Mr. D, I want to be a producer." Well, it's funny because you just don't become a producer. You just don't say, "Well, I'm going to be a producer," and that's what you do. It's like you evolve after doing many things in the music business, in the music industry, like you playing, and then paying attention to the sound, and then recording, and then and bad recording before a good recording, and things like that. And before you know it, then you become to a point where. And so, tell me a little bit. When you say that you're going to produce an artist, their album, let's say, what specifically are your duties?
Speaking for myself, a producer can be a lot of things, but for myself, I'm in there working on what the band feels they need. Some bands need help finishing the song, so I can help write that chorus that you didn't have, or the bridge that you didn't have. Some bands just need me to tell the drummer he's playing too fast, or tell the singer that this is a bad key for them. So I'm kind of like a coach, kind of like a lifeguard. I'm an objective ears hearing your music for the first time. And like any other task, we talk about what the goal is of the record. Are you trying to continue what you've been doing? Or are you trying to break off and try some new sounds? Or, how similar does this record need to be to your last record? Or do you want to change pace? But it's the way I view it, I'm responsible for every aspect of it, is the song a strong, solid song, or the performance is strong, and then the technical end of it. I often use this analogy. A producer in the record world is like the director in a movie. Okay. And the cameraman in the movie is like the engineer in the record world. So the engineer, and I wear both hats. I'm typically micing things up and picking sounds, like the cameraman would pick the shot, and the director would decide whether that was a good take or not, or can we try it in a different direction. So a producer is typically, even if he's not engineering, he's making those decisions and deciding the aesthetic. This is what the band wants. They want a super reverby record, or they want a super dry record, or it should be really sad or really angry. So you're trying to take everything into consideration and deliver them with this final product, this final piece of art that they wanted, and hopefully exceeding what they thought it could be. Make sense?
A great answer. That's a great answer. That really is. That's perfect. That's what I was hoping to hear. And so when this I want to talk about this. So you produced this, and I have a little video that I want to play with Corey. Let me play this, and after I play it, maybe you can talk about it. Okay.
I'm gonna stay in the red, guys.
Caught a train, left me all alone. Well, my baby caught a train, left me all alone. Well, she knows my baby bought a ticket, long as her right arm. Well, my baby bought a ticket, long as her right arm. Well, she says she gonna ride as long as I've been from home.
Yeah, there you go. I like the tune. It's a great tune.
Yeah, Corey's super talented guy. That's the second record I made with him. We did one about 12 years ago here in Pittsburgh, all Pittsburgh guys. I played drums on a couple things. Ray DeFade, you probably know Ray, played on some stuff.
Oh, sure.
Willie Franklin played on some stuff. I can't remember who did the keyboards, maybe Joe Monroe. But we did that one all Pittsburgh. And then since then, Corey has been in Nashville for 14, 15 years. And this one, the video you showed was, we tracked the basics at Blackbird Studio, one of the best studios in the world.
Yeah.
And for this one, Corey wanted to use local friends that he had developed, the connections he had developed there in Nashville, and brought me down to produce his team of people. And what you saw there was the beginning of the tune you played. It's kind of just a rubato, kind of no tempo thing at the top. And so we recorded that separately and then kind of attached that to the top when the tempo comes in. So that's what you saw there, that little video.
Yeah, that was real short.
And the scene with the dog that's his pup. We tracked the basics at Blackbird, did a long day there, and then I flew down some gear, some mics and some gear, and we recorded all the keeper guitars, all the real guitars. That studio was Corey's studio at his home there that you saw with the pup. And then I brought everything back here to Pittsburgh and I mixed here.
That was really cool. Really nice. Yeah, and the sound is great. I mean, the recording itself was fabulous. I like
a great musician, super. As you know, it really starts with this gear is all cool, but it really starts with a great guy behind the drums or behind the piano or behind the guitar.
Oh,
that's 75% of it. It really is.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth? I mean, you gotta. It's like anything else. You get the break, you gotta deliver, right?
100%. Yeah.
Gotta have the goods.
Yeah.
That's right. So we talked about the whole thing with the Hawaii thing with Engelbert and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I had I guess this was this picture here, and that had to do with that show, right?
Yeah, that was 2018. We did that one, and I historically with the first probably 2/3 of those shows I did, I would fly in my gear or to do the recording, but that was just cost prohibitive to fly everything over. So we had to really MacGyver some things together and piggyback it off of a live front of house console, and just basically did a capture. And luckily, knock on wood, we got the files back and everything went well. But yeah, that shot was from I think it was called the Hawaii Theater in Honolulu, I think. And as would have it, we were in the first hurricane. We did the show in the first hurricane they've had there in 25 years. Like, Hawaii's beautiful, weather's great, don't worry about anything. And the minute we landed, I think I went over early, and I think a couple of the musicians' flights that were coming over got canceled or rescheduled because it was a crazy storm they hadn't seen in 25 years or something. So that was in the middle of a hurricane, but we pulled it off.
Yeah, and you actually took some of your own gear with you.
I do sometimes. When it's further away like that, I would bring less. A couple particular microphones I would bring, but that one was super MacGyver together because I couldn't bring a lot of stuff, and flying stuff over was just way too expensive. But when we would do them super locally, we did a handful of them here in Pittsburgh. We've done them in New Jersey. We've done a couple in Las Vegas. We did a couple in California. I would fly gear out there, but that one I had to really, you know, it was like mass surgery. I just had to kind of get through it and get the patient back home and fix it up here with help of people like you that came in and made the stuff sound a little better with the authentic instruments.
Interesting. And, you know, it's interesting too, because I showed in the opening montage, there was a picture of Nicky Gimiliano, and,
Great
you know,
drummer.
passed away. He was a very close friend of mine. You know, he was in
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. Super
Yeah.
great guy. And he'd been on all those shows as well. He had done them as
all
long as I had. Yeah.
The doo-wop show, played drums on all those doo-wop shows. And he was in my band We3 two different times, like in the early, like late 60s, early 70s, until I moved to Miami. And eventually he came to Miami.
Right.
And we were down here together playing. And then I came back to Pittsburgh, and he stayed, and he actually did cruise ships for like 10 years. And then he came back. And when he came back, I hired him back into my band. So he was with me again until 95. It was November. He had the opportunity to go with this PBS band that was up these doo-wop shows. And I said, Nicky, it's probably the only band and gig that was better than being with us at the time. And I said, you got to take it, because they're doing television work and you'll get residuals and things like that. So you got to do that, you know, which he did. And he was with them until, you know, he couldn't do it anymore. And unfortunately, he got sick and passed away. But
yeah, he was a big part of those shows. His ability, as you know, our goal, let me back up. Our goal with these records, with the PBS stuff, and the guy that owns the show, TJ, his marching orders were simple: make it sound like the record.
Yeah.
So if there was a distorted piano on the right channel and a weird out of tune guitar on the left channel, we had to do that. And it took me about a year, honest to God, to get used to that, because I want to make things big and shiny and perfect and happy and in tune and all this stuff. And he says, no, man, it's not it. Because people, and I think why the shows were so successful, and they've done great numbers for PBS, is that we did try to get that attention to detail, like bringing you in to do an accordion. You know, most places would have just left that, you know, Yamaha fake accordion keyboard thing. But I mean, we did the Ronnie Spector stuff. We were auditioning castanets. Well, these are rosewood. These are ebony. Oh, it sounds like that kind of minutia. Back to Nick, you know, we would brainstorm like, okay, what do you think this record was 1965? They probably used these kind of drums. So I'd go bring that drum out, and, you know, they probably approached it this way. And then the miking, you know, they didn't have 50 tracks. They had 4 tracks. So you use one mic. So that kind of attention to detail. But Nick, like I said earlier, that most of it comes from the player. He really embraced that, you know, to really dig deep and listen to the record, and it's almost like digging for dinosaur bones, really listening to what's going on in the record and trying to recreate that. He was a huge part of those shows and those songs coming out the way they did, because of his ability to morph between genres and really respect those records. He was great about that.
And he had great ears too. And I mean, to do that, that's what the key was. That he could hear
great time, great tempo. Yeah,
all of that. Yeah. We had a lot of years, played a lot of years together. So, you know. No.
Now, was he in the band? Don't mean to interrupt. Was he in the band when I subbed? Who was the drummer I subbed for in junior high there? High school? What was that? He went to Las Vegas for a week, had a gig in Las Vegas for a weekend. I remember.
What year did you graduate from high school?
81.
Oh, 81. So,
this was in 79, 80, somewhere in there.
Either that or Kenny.
That would have probably been Nicky.
Okay.
Well, no, actually.
You said the name, I'd remember it.
Kenny Del Vecchio.
That's it.
That was Nicky's first cousin.
And I didn't know that.
When I came back from Florida, it was 76, and Nicky was still down there till about 86. So when I came back, I hired Nicky's cousin, Kenny Del Vecchio. Yeah, that's who it was.
Yeah. Very cool.
So you just mentioned too, Ronnie Spector,
Yeah.
and I have a picture here
There she is.
with that's you and Ronnie Spector
Yeah.
right there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about working with her.
It was wild. We had recorded her twice, two different shows that she was involved in. One in 2010, 2011 at the Benedum,
Okay.
a live show. That had a little bit involvement with peek behind the curtain. When we would do these live shows, we would do a live capture, live audience, feedback in the monitors, the whole 9 yards. And then, and these would be shows with 15, 20 bands doing one or two songs. So we developed this process that a few years earlier, probably 2008, 2009, that we would set up another like mini recording studio in a hotel room.
Okay.
So they would play from 8 to 8:30. 8:31, we'd whisk them over to this other room, and there would be a track there. So we would get a clean lead vocal as well. So they would sing on headphones.
Okay.
So when it came time to mix, I had the live thing with all of the, hey, how you doing tonight? You know,
Yep.
feedback in the microphone, the live stuff. And then we had a performance that was super studio, all done that same day. So if there was feedback or if there was a bum note, I was able to cobble that piece in. So we talked a little bit during that stuff, that overdub session in 2010. But then that picture there was from 2021, maybe. That was a show dedicated just to her. That was at TJ Studio in the North Hills. And we did 4 songs, but it was all Ronnie songs. And again, I was able to spend more time with her and got the sweetest text message. I still have it somewhere, saying that, you know, it was one of the best recording experiences she ever had. She didn't feel pressured. And hearing that from her, it's nice to hear from anybody, but somebody that's been doing it as long as she has been, that I was able to make her feel comfortable and creative in the environment, in a strange environment for her. That meant the world to me, that I made her feel comfortable. Same thing, we had Benny King here, you know, the Stand By Me guy, had him here in my studio to fix a couple lines. And the same thing, he wrote me the sweetest note that you made it painless, you know, hope to record with you again. And that kind of stuff was just super. It's great to hear from everybody that, you know, whether it's a young band that's never been in the studio before or somebody like that, that they had a good experience and it wasn't too nerve-wracking for them. So that was a show that we cut in. It was like Christmas in July, I think TJ called it. And we did a handful of songs with her there and was able to work a lot more closely with her, much like a real recording session where we were cutting a vocal and, hey, want to try the verse again? Or how do you feel about the chorus? Like a producer would, like a coach would, kind of getting the best out of her. And here's somebody, I'm not sure how old she was there, but definitely on well into her career, not the 18 or 19-year-old girl she was when she became famous. Yeah.
Okay, tell me about this picture here. This is a local Pittsburgh girl, right?
Yep. That's Lisa Blau. Yep. She was one of the core group of background vocalists we would use, because a lot of this music from the 50s through the 80s there's a lot of ensemble singing and big heavy background parts. And she was one of the, you know, secret weapons, you know, that backing vocalist group that we had. That shot was at TJ Studio, and she'd come in, and she was on the live shows as well. But if we'd have to come in afterwards, because we would also do live versions that you would see on TV with the crowd and everything, but then we would cobble together like a more of a record performance without the audience and without the bleed and stuff. So we definitely use those studio singers to make it sound more like the record. And she's, you know, bulletproof, great musician, great energy, knowledgeable. And again, one of those persons like Nick that you had to kind of indoctrinate into, let's listen to the record. Let's not go to what we would normally do. What did they do on the record? And that was our marching orders. And that's, again, what I think made the records and these TV shows as popular as they were, is that they were like a new version of those old records. We weren't discounting the old versions. We were trying to pay them honor and put them in the best possible light.
I see. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then, you know, let's talk for a second about your brother, Kevin. And I remember Kevin in school too.
Did you have him?
Oh yeah, he was younger than you though.
Was he a bad kid? What was he like? Did you have to slap him around a little bit?
He
What's
was
going on?
horrible. No,
Yeah.
he was a good kid too. Oh, I was lucky because when you teach music, you're teaching kids that are there because they want to be there.
Right.
It's
Good
like
point.
teaching, history or English or, gym phys ed. They have to take that class. But in my class, everybody was there because they really wanted to be there and they enjoyed music one way or another. So yeah, I never really had bad kids. They were all good.
Yeah, I've been lucky to make music with him throughout the years, played in a few bands with him, and he's one of my first call guys. He's played on a lot of the PBS stuff, probably 60, 70 of those songs that we needed, a mandolin or a baritone guitar or any of those weird sounds that would be on the record. He's one of the first call guys we bring in, and other records I've worked on.
Wow.
We've developed a bit of an ESP. There's a handful of musicians. I'm sure you've experienced this where, you kind of just say, hey, can you try busier? And boom, it's right there. You don't have to be that specific with him. He's a super great guy to work with. Yeah. Yeah. Very lucky to have him for many reasons. Very lucky to have him in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't realize, I knew he was a guitar player, but I didn't realize he was at that level. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Talented cat. Yeah.
Didn't know, That's great. And he still plays today. He's
in like 19 bands. He owns a music store. What was kind of the end of what Swissvale Music was.
okay.
Main Street Music is out in Irwin, PA, and he owns that and has been running that for a while and thriving out there. And he's in guitar player in the Sun King Warriors band. This is Jim Donovan that was in Rusted Root. Again, the Jim project was just me and Jim for 2 months. Jim was the drummer, and he's just like, I want to sing. I write songs. I want to be out in front of the band. So kind of just figuring out what that was going to look like for Jim, and I helped him kind of go through that process. And when it was time to, and Jim's a pretty good guitar player, but when it was time for more evolved guitar playing, we brought people like Kevin in, and Rob James from the Clarks, and then Kevin ended up being and is in the Jim Donovan, the Sun King Warriors band. Kev's also in a band called Trace Lads, which is like a take on the three tenors kind of thing, but three rock and roll guys that sing and play. And so he's got that going on as well. And I fill in with those guys occasionally when they do a full 5-piece version out with a rhythm section with bass and drums. I'll come out and play, but predominantly it's 3 guys, 3 singers, 3 acoustic guitars. So he's in those 2 bands, fills in with some other people, and again, is the guy behind the Main Street Music out there in Irwin.
That's great. Awesome.
Yeah.
And I assume this is during COVID, you and your brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Being careful. Yeah. At that time, Mom, who was really compromised with her lungs, we thought if she gets a whiff of COVID, she was, we'd lose her. So we were super cautious with the masking and everything and the vaccinations. And, luckily, that we were able to keep her healthy through that. So we were super focused on that.
Yeah. And was this his band?
That's the Trace Lads band. Yeah. So that's the 3 guys out front. Typically it's 3 acoustic things. And then me and Bob Carrata, the bass player, when they do like a electric loud version of it, that's what that is. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Okay, good. That's cool. Man, you guys have done a lot of things here. And I have a photo with you recording Gary Jacob.
Yeah.
This looks like a steel guitar.
Yep.
Is that steel?
Yep. Yeah. Pedal steel. He is an incredible musician. Again, a guy that wants to make the song great. I think I met Gary 15, 20 years ago. I did a country record for a band called Nomad, and we wanted to use that flavor, and he was recommended. And Gary had been around forever. He was in a band, I think, called Gravel for a while back in the 70s, but a guy that's played with everybody. He had been on a couple of the PBS shows before I really knew him. He was, we did a country one down in West Virginia, and he was the pedal steel guy on that. This was for a band called the Clarks that I've been working with now for maybe 15 years. Done a handful of records.
Pittsburgh guy?
Pardon me?
Is he a Pittsburgh guy?
Yeah, Pittsburgh dude.
Originally from Pittsburgh? Yeah. Okay.
I think serendipitously, I met him, and then Scott, the singer from the band, met him at the same time. And this is a time when the Clarks, those guys wanted to maybe break out and try some different flavors. So we both said, hey, there's this guy, super great musician, let's bring him in. And Gary played on that first record I did with them, it was called Restless Days. And he's been a band member. He plays on stage with them. He's been with them since then, probably, again, I don't know, 15 years, something like that. Super good dude, super great musician. Especially with me, I was trying to get him, because the Clarks aren't really a country band. They're more of there's some country influences, like you would hear in a Roger McGuinn or something like that, or an Eagles. But so we didn't want the Buck Owens kind of, hee-haw pedal steel, but we wanted that instrument. So he was really great at listening to guitar lines and applying that to the pedal steel. So super flexible guy, super great musician, and again has been on stage, guy that plays 12 string and acoustic and everything with those guys while they're playing. And he's been on every record we've done for the Clarks since then. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. And tell me about the Hawkeyes. This picture here.
That's Jay Wiley, super talented guy, singer songwriter, can rock you with just him and acoustic guitar, or with his live band, the Hawkeyes, it has like 3 guitar players in it. We've been working together for 10 or 12 years. We've done maybe 1 full length and maybe 4 or 5 singles. We're going to be releasing a song here in a month with those guys that we just wrapped up. Me and Jay have been good friends, and I love writing songs with him and building them with him. He's a super talented guy.
Yeah. You've covered a lot of bases in your time, and I have this logo from your studio, and I want you to tell me a little bit about when you started. Actually, I mean, you told me a little bit, you had a partner initially and rented that space of Swissville Music.
Mm-hmm.
When was that? Do you remember the year or approximate?
Man, it was like this slow, gradual, because you remember the recording stuff we talked about. I was kind of the recording guy for the music store. So I was downstairs 90% of the time, upstairs 10% of the time. And then it just started, the studio started getting busier. So I was downstairs less, and up here. And then this really took off with a couple of records that we did. And then people started coming. So then when Mario left and to pursue his cooking thing that he wanted to do, the guys that own the music store, they bought out Mario's share. So I was partners with the music store owners for maybe 2 years, 3 years. Okay. And then those guys kind of broke up, and then I bought out their share, which was Mario's share, which prompted the name change, which probably happened in 2010, maybe somewhere. I'm bad with dates, but that's when the Red Medicine thing came about. The building's red. People sometimes say I've doctored up their songs. So, and it's a cool song from a band called Fugazi. So that's where the name came from.
I see. Yeah, that gives me an idea, because that 2010, but you were doing it a lot longer than that,
Yes, all the stuff with Glenn Pavone and the Vibro Kings and Grapevine, and the beginning of the PBS stuff was all done in those early partnerships. Right. But then maybe the first half of the 30 years, or the first third of the 30 years, and the second half of the second 2/3 has been here by myself.
Okay, so I have this photo right here, and this is with another notable Pittsburgh band, Rusted Root, and you were worked with founding member, the drummer, Jim Donovan. Yeah. When he stepped out from behind the drums to sing in front of his own band, that was the Sun King Warriors. Let me show this picture, and you tell us about that.
That's me and Jim. Yeah. We had a steady, I think twice a month he would come in after he dropped his kids off at school. We'd come in just with an acoustic guitar and finding, keys. Where do I sing well? He had all these ideas, but he just had never fronted the band. Super talented musician, great lyrics. So we started working together. Jim had played on, Jim was a neighbor for many years, and I didn't know that. Didn't really know him. Then he came in through a mutual friend, and he played drums on a record and had a good time here, and then reached out, and we started working on what would become the Sun King Warriors project over a period of years. Again, him finding his voice as a a singer, a songwriter, a front man. Yeah, that's Jim. Super sweet guy, and very proud of the work that we've done together with him. And then getting to know the band, and again, my brother Kevin being in the band, and it's like just a bunch of brothers. So it's really great working with those guys.
Cool. I have a little video. It's like a drum demo video. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't. Let's,
All right, let me show this video and we talk about it after.
Oh,
Yeah. Kind of like everything you want.
yeah.
Drum. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was during COVID. That was, we didn't, as you know, we didn't know what was going to happen, so I put that together, what can I do here by myself? And everybody was making music, everybody was buying guitars and getting puppies and doing all that stuff when they were locked down. So I did have some calls like, hey, can you send me some drum tracks? And I said, and that's what prompted that video. Again, not knowing if we were going to be locked down for 6 months or 6 years.
Right.
So did a bit of that during COVID. Just somebody would send me a guitar and vocal with a click track, and I want it to sound like John Bonham or Stuart Copeland or whatever, and we'd send out the track. So that was a little bit of a business change because I couldn't have a room full of people breathing on each other here when we didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a business model that we did and did a handful of did pretty well with that.
Yeah. I recognize some of that gear because, I was a music director for several international,
Yes.
and I had different drummers over
Yeah.
and they all had their list of requests with regards to microphones, preamps, and all that stuff.
Right.
And it was always in the rider, the contract. So I recognize some of that, and so one of your focuses was to really focused on providing great drum sounds and being able to record and get the best out of a drum kit in there. Yeah.
It's hard. Again, with the advent of the cool now computers, not even those tape decks we're talking about now, you can do everything on a computer because the computers have gotten so fast and powerful. But the thing about drums is not only do you need a great player like Nick we spoke about, but you need the physical space. And instead of, if you're a singer, one microphone, one channel into the computer. But when you're doing drums, you need 15 microphones and 15 preamps and compressors. So the infrastructure part of it is bigger and more of an investment. And again, the room is tough. This room was purpose built for specific tone. Every room that you go into has certain frequencies that add up or carve out and makes the room have a particular tone. And when we built this, isolated this room from the rest of the building, we were mindful of certain frequencies. So the drums sound good in this main room. So yeah, that's something like anybody can record a vocal at home pretty much and get a pretty decent result. But getting a drum set, if you don't have the room and a bunch of microphones and all the gear, it's hard to get that kind of big pro drum sound in your basement. So that's been a big part of what I do here, whether it's bringing bands in that want and we do a full record because they were intrigued by the drum sound, or bands come in, they cut drums and they go home and do their vocals, do their bass guitar, do their keyboards all at home, and then they either mix it themselves or bring it back to me and mix it. But yeah, the drum thing has been a big part of what I've been doing here.
I could see that.
Yeah.
And so that leads me to the next point is, let's talk about you recording and subbing on drums with the notable Pittsburgh group, the Clarks.
Yeah. Known those guys for a while, started doing records with them back pretty early on. When I started doing this, I did like a B-side record for them, like demos that weren't put out. So we did 2 of those records. Then I produced a few singles for them. And then that first full length I did with Gary Jacob was involved with, a record called Restless Days. So yeah, I've been working with those guys, I think 20 years, and knew the material pretty well. And so I probably 99, 2000, somewhere around there, the drummer Dave, who is a guy that builds motorcycles and has a metal shop and all this stuff, he I think he broke his hand riding his motorcycle and didn't realize it. And then it was like one of those deals, they had to break it again. So he was out for like a month. So this was back 20 some years ago.
Okay.
And I played about a month with those guys. And then recently, maybe a year or 2 ago, in his metal shop, he got a metal splinter or something in his hand. And I subbed in with those guys again. I've done a lot of that with bands I've made records with because I know the material really well, whether it was, the Hawkeyes band, you mentioned Jay Wiley. I did some shows with those guys. Jim Donovan, I've filled in with them. A lot of the bands I've done records with, I've filled in because, again, I know the material and kind of privileged and felt good. The Gene the Werewolf guys felt comfortable with me being back there. So that made me feel good that they gave me the football and let me fill in for a night or 2. That was fun.
Sure. Tell me about this photo then. This is the Clarks here, huh?
Yep. Yeah, that was probably 3 years ago. That was at the Oaks Theater in
Is that in Oakmont?
Oakmont, yes. Yeah, Oakmont, correct, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were filling in there. I could see. Yeah.
Yep, that was fun. But it's a little bit of a scramble because, it's like typically a last minute call. And then you kind of know the songs from being around them, but you've never really played them.
Okay.
So that's a different thing. It's like, you know all the lines from the Godfather movie, but going in and actually having to act the lines, is a little different. So it was a scramble. I think I got the call on Wednesday or something, and we had to learn everything for a Friday show. So it was a challenge, and we all had fun. And they're great people and great musicians, and they helped me get through it. It was a good time that night.
It's
It was
awesome.
2 nights actually. I think it was a Friday, Saturday, if memory serves.
Yeah, Sean, you've had a great career. I mean, you've done so much with so many different artists and different things. I'm very proud of where you've come.
Well, I'll say it 1,000 times. I don't mean to derail your podcast, but you set me on my course. You really, really did. I tell this story to everybody that will listen, but that working with you, maybe 9th or 10th grade when your drummer was out of town. And for people that don't know about Vito, he was a consummate musician and was booked, 2 years in advance doing weddings and dances and all this stuff where people really knew how to know what a cha-cha was from a samba, from a merengue, from all those different feels and tempos and stuff. And you threw me in the deep end. You had enough faith in me. So I was simultaneously freaked out, frightened, but super stoked because you had enough courage and belief in me and faith in me to think that I could do it. I remember rehearsing at your old house over in West Mifflin in the basement, and you worked on tempos and the cha-cha does this, and you schooled me, and then you threw me in the deep end of the pool, and we did those shows. And that was, I hope I've told you enough over the years. That vote of confidence really set me on my way. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's good. You're welcome. Yeah, I'm glad, man. I'm happy for you. Yeah. Well, that was my job as a teacher, to work.
Yeah, but you went above and beyond. Not many teachers are bringing the ninth grader out, on their money gig, in front of somebody that's paying you to be the band at their wedding or whatever else. That meant a lot, man. It really did. I thank you for that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And so before I let you go, I have one more video I want to show, and I put together another montage of some of the other songs that you mixed, produced, recorded, whatever. And then there's some more pictures and things. I'll show this and then we can talk about it.
Okay.
Say you want peace, just wanna feel content, but you're always gonna wonder where that other road went. I hope you're happy now, don't say it just for me. Better watch your step, babe, the man does what it please. Isn't it funny what the times will bring? And nothing as sad as what we left behind. Still got the scars, can't remember all the fights. Never gonna forget that girl who sang I feel you every night. Better knock it down now, better knock it down now. You'll carry around saints, sinners, and clowns. Hey! And when the brightest fire turns everything to ash.
See that guy sitting over there, the winning smile and the golden hair. Well, that's my boy, that's my boy. See him now down on his knees, under the sofa, looking for his keys. Well, that's my boy, that's my boy. Now he loves his Jan and he loves his mama. He has the soul of the Dalai Lama, cool as a cucumber, gentle as a breeze. Kid's all heart from his head to his knees. See that kid diving into the water, save a drowning man and his daughter. Well, that's my boy, that's my boy. He drinks too much, he starts to babble, always kicks my ass at Scrabble. That's my boy, yeah, that's my boy. Well, he loves his Jan and he loves his mama, forgives them both for voting for Obama. Cool as a cucumber, gentle as a breeze. Kid's all heart from his head to his knees. I can see a kid with his eye on the sky.
You know?
Cool.
Yeah, it's cool seeing that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a neat arrangement of What a Wonderful World. I made an album in, I think, 2019, 2018,
Yeah.
2019. It was a solo piano album. And that was, I think that was the last song on the album was What a Wonderful World. But it's like really laid back and like kind of, you know,
Right.
the album's called Inner Space. So it's like really,
Right on.
but this is like really cool. I mean, I never heard the Clarks do that. I've heard them a few times. I never heard them do that song, you know.
Yeah, that was a Penguins thing. They commissioned that. They wanted that tune. If memory, somebody will correct me, but I think if memory serves, they wanted that song, but those guys doing it.
Yeah.
And we worked up a couple demos, and it was a good thing for them. And then Had a Life. It was on one of the Clarks records, that Restless Days record. I think our first full length I did with them. And then Planets Aligned. It ended up being included on a Simpsons episode. They wanted to use the song, a version of the song, and I think just whoever the music director was went out and scoured the internet and found the version that we did, and it was included. That was surreal, hearing something that you had
Sure.
recorded and produced on, you know, iconic TV show like that. It was pretty wild.
Awesome. Well, Sean, I want to thank you for being a guest on my program, for your time and for your talents, and it's so great to see you again and chat with you.
Yeah, man.
So long.
Well, thank you for having me, Vito, Mr. DeSalvo, from my elementary or grade school days and high school days. You really imparted a lot of wisdom of what a musician is, what a good musician is, how they conduct themselves. That, whether it was me or Brian Rose or Tom Beckerback or any of these people that you mentioned, that really stuck with us. So thank you for being you.
You're welcome, and I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's one of the joys of being a teacher. That's one of the perks of being a teacher is when you have a student come back to you so many years later, and you know they remember, you know, that you were in your class. And sometimes as a teacher, you don't know who you're impacting in a classroom, right?
Right.
You know, especially when you have ensembles, you have 30, 40, 50 kids in front of you, sometimes more, and you just don't know who you're impacting. And then you find out years later, somebody comes back or writes you a note or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a wonder.
That's got to be
It's a wonder.
fulfilling. Yeah, yeah.
For sure. Well, listen, I wish you all the continued success and keep working at it and have a good time, and wish all the best to you. And I saw a picture in that first thing with your wife. Is it Kim?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, couldn't do it. She has been the biggest supporter. You know, the life of a musician or a studio guy is very up and down. It isn't a 9-to-5 banker thing.
Sure.
She's, you know, wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing without her support for all these decades. Yeah, super
Awesome. Yeah.
lucky to be have that kind of person for my life. Yeah, very, very, very fortunate.
I agree. One day I was in here and I was doing something, and I walked out in the kitchen and I said to my wife, her name is Lana, I said, hey, well, she was West Mifflin South too, 1 year after me. But anyhow, I said to Lana, I said, how do we stay married all these years? Because this year we'll be married 53 years in December. Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations.
How do you stay married, especially me being a musician and traveling all over the world and all over the country,
Yeah.
and whatever, you know. But like you say, you have great times and you have some down times, you know. Everybody goes through it, you know.
Yeah.
Lana was she really ran the business for me because I was playing so much. Plus I was teaching full time,
Right.
and I was playing full time, sometimes playing more than I was teaching. And you know, fortunately, she gave up her career, which was education, but she gave up her career to manage my career so that I could just come home and say, well, where am I playing tonight? You know, and what do I have to wear, and what do I have to play? You know,
Yeah.
where am I going? You know, that kind of thing. So it was
Great to have that kind of support.
Yeah, definitely. It made all the difference for me because I couldn't have done everything that I did without her. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's great to be blessed like that. I know I am, and I didn't know that about her putting her job aside or her career aside and managing you 100%. I didn't know that. That's great.
Oh, yeah. She actually booked other bands and other acts besides we three, but she got in at one point where she was booking other bands and things. So because we had such an overflow with gigs, we couldn't do them all, and I couldn't have two we threes, because they always wanted Vito behind the accordion, and there just wasn't a lot of choices in town for that.
There's only one Vito, yeah.
So anyhow, it all worked out well. And we're now both retired and living in Naples, and it's beautiful. And so,
yeah. So I love the pictures you said. You living the dream down there. When I retire, I want to retire like you. That's the great thing.
Yeah, it's our paradise. Yeah, you'll be there someday too. You will be. So anyhow, thank you again, and it was great having you on the program, and we'll look forward to hearing more work from you too.
Thank you for having me on. Good to connect. And again, really honor somebody I respect so much having me on. Thanks so much, Peter. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You have a great night. All right. And there you have it. Another episode of Memories of a Musician with Sean McDonald. Great kid, great drummer, musician, producer, engineer. Owns the studio. I mean, he's done so much. I'm so proud of him too, being a former student of mine. So looking ahead, we're going to go back to Nashville, Tennessee. My next episode, we're not going to have one for the next 2 weeks. I'm taking off, but my next episode of Memories of a Musician will air on Wednesday, July 29th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and will feature Nashville-based artist, songwriter, and label founder Garrett Thorne. And the way I learned about Garrett Thorne was, again, one of my former students, Brandon Barnes, was a guest on this show. And Brandon was the last drummer that I had in my band, We Three. And he left our band about when our band dissolved in 2014. And then he left and went to Nashville. And he now lives in Nashville and makes his living recording and with a lot of different artists and so forth. And one of them in touring. And one of them is Garrett Thorne. And so one day we were talking, Brandon and I, and I said, maybe Garrett might be, willing to come on as a guest. So he definitely, I contacted him and he said, I'd love to do that, So Garrett Thorne is betting his career on something increasingly rare, music made entirely by humans. Raised in a tiny tourist town in northern Wisconsin by a deeply musical family, he started piano at the age of 6, fell hard for guitar-driven rock as a teenager, and has been writing and recording obsessively ever since. In 2015, Garrett moved to Nashville with a room he'd secretly been paying rent for months, unbeknownst to his parents, and he hasn't looked back, logging more than 1,500 shows and opening for the likes of Blackberry Smoke, Travis Tritt, Russell Dickerson, and John Pardee. His debut album, Apollo, grew out of profound personal loss, and his new record, Greenhouse, the first single dropped June 22nd, pushes even further, a blend of Americana, folk, and classical rock recorded with zero auto-tune and full live takes in the spirit of the Beatles, Tom Petty, and Nirvana. Through his label, Records of a Revolution, he's on a mission to prove that in an age where anyone can generate a perfect song with a prompt, craftsmanship, live performance, and genuine human connection are exactly what will matter most. Their motto says it all: be human. The episode will be streamed live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Garrett Thorne on Memories of a Musician on Wednesday, July 29th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining me, and have a great evening.